How did the lectures go for everybody? They went well? Okay. All right, great. Glad to hear it. I'm glad to hear it. Well, if you guys have joined previously, you know that one of the things that we try to do during this time here is just answer any questions that you might have, either about the exam or about the questions that you're working on, or ACBC, or just any of the lectures that you have worked on. So this is really just a question and answer time. We don't have a particular agenda. We don't have a like we got to get this done, like some of the other sessions where we're trying to give you some hints on the exam. So there's really just an opportunity for you to ask any particular questions that you might have about either what you heard or the process for ACBC, and I'll do the best I can to answer any of those. So I'll open up to you guys and give you a chance if you have any questions. I know that Bill's asked me a number of questions before. You might still have some more to Bill, and or Belinda or Chad or anyone else. You guys are more than welcome to ask those questions. And if you don't, I mean, we can just chat and hang out for a while, I suppose, or we can be done and you guys can go sleep. So.
Well, I enjoyed the videos. I think they were very thorough. I've been enjoying this so far. So it's kind of nerve-wracking at the same time, because I think there's still, I want to be careful and make sure I'm not feeling like, oh, do I need to do some more studying before I think about, answering those questions and submitting them. But I'm sure everyone else is feeling the same thing too, huh?
Well, and you bring up a good point. I mean, the exams are helping you craft, hopefully, what you've already heard before, you've already come to believe, for example, around depression or something like that, right?
Yeah.
And so they are exams, but I mean, this isn't a PhD qualifying. I mean, that folks often ask questions about how many citations and what sort, and we just got to remember that that's not this type of exam, so to speak. ACBC has the goal of ensuring, a level of doctrinal consistency among its members. And then obviously, this is a weeding out process. People get weeded out, whether it's they see the mountain that is before them and they say, yeah, I mean, I can't do that, or they read some of the questions and they have to be obviously say something like, well, I guess I can't agree to that, so I can't be part of the agency. I mean, I had somebody this week wanted to take one of our trainings, but they came from a non-complementarian church, so they had female pastors, and we told her, hey, we love you, but we would not allow for that. And so again, we weren't mad, we're not angry. It's just we already know the end goal, or we already know the end, and the end is going to be you won't be able to be certified unless you have a change of position. So we love you, but yeah. So you guys, any questions, any comments, any?
I have a question about like documentation / footnotes. So whenever I would answer a question, I mean, I'm using notes that I've read through. A lot of the stuff I have, like I've taken seminary classes, so I might get a definition of like the sufficiency of scripture is, and I'll quote something. So do I have to say, okay, I got this from, Jay Adams? I mean, do we need to put on every question a bibliography or a footnote type thing, or what?
Yeah, I mean, a general rule of thumb is if I can Google your sentence and I would find what you said attributed to somebody else, then we definitely need to cite it, right? So if Jay Adams says X, Y, and Z, then you would need to cite it. Now, there is no formal, you have to use APA, MLA, Chicago style. You just need to have a method for communicating who you stole this from and where is that found. I tend to think footnotes are just the easiest thing by and large. So you need to do that, and you would need to include a page number if you steal it. Now, if you stole it from a lecture that you sat in on by Jay Adams in the 70s and you wrote it down on a piece of paper, and then you would just cite it that way.
Mhm.
But it does matter, for instance, because I had an exam where somebody was attributing something to Jay Adams, and they didn't include a page number. They just, kind of said, as Jay Adams says, incompetent to counsel, blah, blah, blah. And I said, there's no way he said that. Like, I mean, I've read that book. I've read it a few times. There's no way he said that. And so I had to, hey, you've cited Jay Adams as your authority here. People have done it with Wayne Grudem as well, under the questions of what it means to be made in the image of God. And so if you're going to do that, you definitely need to. Now, that being said, a lot of times you don't need a definition or a citation, and you can cite everything that we've given you. And you just need, you can either say, look, I got this answer from BCTC or FBCM's track 5. That's fine.
Okay.
That's good enough. On page 42 or whatever. Most graders, when they see that you're stealing from our notes, they're not going to throw a big fit. And it's a pretty common thing. I don't know if that helps, Chad.
Yeah, for sure.
Great question.
One question I had was regarding, and I just lost it. But so Rob would say in his introduction, you have to make sure you define it, make sure you state your opinion clearly. If it's not really asking for, or my position, or like I believe statements, do I still have to say that on the theology questions? Okay.
No. I mean, the assumption is that is what you would believe, unless they say, like, for example, on the complementarian issue, what do you believe?
Right.
So we need to know what is Bill's personal position and belief. Usually it's the stickier questions that they're putting the what do you believe in there. They don't ask what do you believe about Christ's humanity and divinity. That's kind of just settled in orthodoxy. And if you're not one who believes Christ's fully divine and fully man, you're probably not going to be in this type of training. So yeah, it's usually the sticky questions that they want to know your position on, or question 3 on cessationism and sign gifts for today or stuff like that.
Great. Thanks.
But some of those questions are fatal errors. I mean, obviously, if you come down on saying, I don't believe complementarian, there's no such thing as husband's roles and wife's roles, then that you could have a great exam on everything else, but that'll torpedo you. And you're not moving forward. So when in doubt, ask.
I got another question about the copyright, because in each of the folders it says, this is copyrighted. So is that for like mass reproduction? But if you want to utilize that material and maybe take an outline or something like that in counseling, and you're using it in your counseling with someone, and maybe you give them a handout, is that okay, or what do they mean by those copyright laws?
Yeah, I mean, what faith means is you cannot reproduce the material without written permission, meaning, and we've had this before, unfortunately, where folks, they'll buy a notebook, like you guys have bought a notebook or something like that, and then they'll just Xerox the fire out of that thing and and it'll have our logo on it. It'll still say faith, or they'll maybe get rid of the faith thing. And so it's one thing to make a photocopy for a counselee as part of a homework or something like that. That's generally not a big problem. I'm going to teach a class. I'm going to take the track 5 material. I'm going to produce my own class. And here I got some notes. That's when it becomes a problem. So that's why all the material that Faith puts out there is copyrighted, because there's a lot of work that goes into it. But then there's also there's a lot of our material out there. So yeah, it has happened, and it's happened even recently, unfortunately. So It's always unfortunate. So even your ESV Bible has a copyright.
Well, would that be as far as like teach? Like I did at a church, they had me talk about addictions
Mhm.
at a men's group, and I basically used. I mean, I didn't reproduce anything, but I basically taught some of my notes. Is that unethical too? To teach in a public setting like that, and you're using notes from there? I mean, I wasn't like word for word, but I was kind of following an outline, so to speak. But is that unethical as well if we teach
Yeah.
something like that?
I think that's a gray area. So where you're not ripping something off, but on the same point, you're not pointing to somebody and saying, here's where the vast majority of my inspiration comes from. So, for example, I remember maybe a year or two ago, we were preaching through the book of Romans, and um, I saw Tim Keller's outline after doing study, and I was like, man, there's no way I could improve on this outline. Like, this thing is solid. Now, I preached the sermon, but I did say in the introduction, I've basically ripped off Tim Keller's outline. Now, I didn't use his words throughout the sermon, but I ripped his outline off. I think what you're describing kind of falls in the gray area. Where it wouldn't fall into a gray area is, and this is where we've had some problems, people use those things for profit. Meaning I taught a class and then I charged a $50 registration fee, and most of the notes were inspired by you. That's where that becomes less of a gray area and much more of you probably broke the copyright at that point then. Which it doesn't sound like that's what you're doing. But like I said, we have had it. So, and we are a nouthetic organization, so we get to communicate very honestly and directly with folks. So, good question. Well, hey guys, it's 8:00. I'll let you go. That way you get some sleep. We'll see you in the morning, and look forward to talking to you guys about the remainder of the sessions that we have. Take care, guys.
Thanks, Josh. We'll see you.
Bye.